Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to go through the training for our new core incentive application. Purpose of this document is to be kind of a one-stop shop for all prescriptive, custom, instant discount lighting, and decarbonization programs. So all incentives for those programs are going to be entered through this single consolidated workbook and are going to be submitted along with your online application. So we're going to take a tour through the workbook and how to use it and what to do once you've completed it and are ready to submit a project. So the workbook opens on this welcome page, which outlines a couple of those same things I just mentioned. The prescriptive, custom, and instant discount links are here. So if you want to open an incentive guide or review some of the other program documents like terms and conditions or other resources, we have links for all of those, as well as links to the portal and online incentive application here. So this has some general information, and you're going to navigate the workbook using these blue arrows. So using this first blue arrow, I'll continue to some brief instructions. So encourage everyone to go through all of the instructions here before starting their first workbook application. So as I said in the start here, the first step is that you're going to be using the blue arrows to navigate back and forth, as well as headers at the top of the workbook. So you'll notice that you don't see any tabs on the bottom. The workbook is primarily locked so that only customer-facing entries are available and that no extra information is mixed into the front end of it. So using those arrows, you'll be able to go back and forth to different parts of the application as well as other links at the top. We're aiming to complete steps from left to right. So you'll see that fields are marked as required. On form pages, we want to fill out all those fields that are marked required. And then for each equipment input, we'll have cells that highlight blue, indicating that they're required. If at any point you haven't completed a required item, there will be some sort of message that lets you know that you're missing something and points you back towards the right direction. A couple of those common errors or warnings are that you may need to separate into separate workbooks. So I mentioned that we have prescriptive, custom, decarbonization, and instant discount lighting all in this workbook. You can't mix all of those together. So if you have separate program apps in here, they need to be split into 2 or more workbooks. So for example, instant discount lighting and prescriptive lighting, 2 different programs, so that's 2 different workbooks. Prescriptive decarbonization, prescriptive HVAC, those are also 2 different programs, so those need to be 2 different workbooks. Custom versus prescriptive items need to be 2 different workbooks. And then if you do have multiple end uses for prescriptive items, such as prescriptive lighting and prescriptive HVAC, which is going to be our example here, those can be within one workbook because they're under one program. Similarly, if you have multiple custom measures under different end uses, aside from decarbonization, those can also be under one workbook. So another common error that might come up is if you get this value is outside of the selected range. That indicates that the category that you may have selected is not matching one of your inputs. So if you've selected an HVAC item that says it's for 0 through 5.4 tons, and you try to input 10 tons, you're going to get this error, and it's going to tell you to go back and review what your category is and your input are. And so we're also going to be tracking the application progress through this percentage bar in the top right. If you're unsure why your progress is lower than you expected, you can go to the project information tab, which will show you all of your complete and incomplete sections, and this will be able to direct you back towards what information might be missing. So as I said, that progress percentage tracker is going to be what we're using to determine how far we are into the application. We want every application to be at 100% the time of submission. And like I said, go back to that project review tab if you're ever not sure why we're not at 100%. Once you've gotten to 100% and you're satisfied with all the measures that you've input, you go to the Submission Instructions tab, which will tell you all the documentation and steps that are needed to register your application online. So I'm going to hit Start. You need to see a lot of this stuff live. So you'll see our blue arrows here to go backwards and forwards. Our percentage here, we're at 0% because we haven't put anything in yet. And then our different sections across the top of here that we're going to click between. So starting at project information, I'm going to create a sample project here. So you'll enter your name as it appears in the JCPL bill. So I'm just going to say sample site here, as well as your address for the service. Your customer type, in this case, we'll choose commercial and industrial, and continue our sample item here. For a mailing address, for any further project information, this can be the same as your service address by saying yes, or you can enter a different mailing address. Under utility account information, enter your electric utility account number. And if applicable to your project, you can also enter a gas utility account number. You can choose any of the gas providers and then enter my gas account number. The building information will include the building type. So for this example, I'm going to choose a hotel. For the building ownership, I'm going to choose whether this is an owned or a rented building. Say own. Your existing space conditioning and type, say electric cooling and gas heat. Annual operating hours. There's a little pop-up here that gives some more information about what's expected here. We're looking for how many hours a year that this facility is open. I'm just going to put in a filler here. Square footage, number of floors in year built are not required fields. They don't have this required blue text below them, but are still helpful if they are something that you have on hand. Enter more samples there. Existing water heating type, also put electric. Then it's going to ask you if this is a lighting application. In this case, yes, we will make it a lighting application, which will prompt me to select the lighting application type. So I can choose either prescriptive or instant discount, and this will affect the measures that are available to me. If I choose prescriptive, it means I'm open to all the other prescriptive end uses. If I choose instant discount, that means this is instant discount lighting only. I'm going to choose a prescriptive lighting application. For the project description, this should just be a brief narrative. It doesn't need to be more than a sentence or two about what the project is. So I'm going to say this is going to be a lobby lighting retrofit and replacing the unit HVAC. So now that I've filled out all of this project information, you can see that my progress has gone up quite a bit here. Ready, I can go to the next section. So under equipment type, we'll see all the different equipment types or end uses here. You can either click the one that you know you need to go to from here, or click through the blue arrows and look at the different options that are available. As a reminder, decarbonization apps are separate. All the others contain either prescriptive or custom options. So I'm going to click on lighting to start. And so this is the typical layout of our equipment input sections. This blue cell indicates this is where I'm going to start. So if I'm going to select a DLC fixture or retrofit kit as my category. I have a new blue cell that's lit up. Lets me choose a measure. I'm going to choose a 2x2 troffer. Now I've got a bunch more blue cells that have shown up, indicating that I need to input more information for this line. Over to the left here, where my estimated incentive and savings would be, it's indicating that I'm missing inputs because I have not filled out all of the blue cells here. So I'm going to move left to right on this single line, and I'm going to say the install location is the lobby. I'm going to say my quantity is 50. My efficient wattage for this fixture, we'll say 10. We'll say 5,000 lumens, and I'll put in some filler information for manufacturer, model, and DLC information. And then under this existing equipment section, I'll be able to choose existing lighting types. I'll say this is a T12 currently. And there are also 50 of them in my existing equipment quantity. And last, we have material and labor costs. So I'll put some filler numbers in here. And now we have an incentive that has populated. So we're showing that my estimated incentive here is $2,000, as well as my savings associated with it. You might see negative therm savings or natural gas savings in some instances. This is normal for lighting replacements as we're removing some of the heat that's being put off from the existing non-LED fixtures. But in this case, I'm seeing $2,000 incentive. And if I were to go to my incentive guide, I can find this item and see that they're $40 per fixture. I have 50 fixtures here, resulting in a $2,000 incentive. So we see that incentive at the top here as our estimated total incentive, as well as our section incentive. And if I wanted to also add controls to this item, I can go under the middle section here, which is for lighting controls, and choose maybe a wall-mounted occupancy sensor. Now I'm back to missing inputs because I have new blue cells here that need to be fit in or filled in. So I'll say we have 5 sensors. I'll enter my manufacturer and model information, as well as my sensor cost. Now I have an updated incentive here. From my incentive guide, if I were to find occupancy sensors, they are here. Switch or wall or external mounted are $25 per fixture. So because they're controlling 50 fixtures, although there are only 5 sensors, we're getting that dollar per fixture for 50 fixtures here. So now my incentive has increased for this section, and I'm going to complete my lighting section. I want to also add a different prescriptive end use here. I'm going to go to my HVAC section, show another example. So let's say in addition to this lighting retrofit, we're also going to be updating the HVAC within the hotel rooms. So I'm going to select package terminal heat pumps, as well as a subcategory. Now I have a whole new set of lines to fill in. So I'm going to say the locations are guest rooms. Quantity, we'll say 100. We're going to enter the required manufacturer, model, and AHRI information. For my secondary quantity, my type is shown here, and that's tons. We'll say because we're between this size subcategory, we'll say 1 ton. Efficiency requirements are then shown. So for the system year, showing required 10.9. I'll put in the information from my AHRI certificate. In this case, showing a required 3.2. Put in higher value. And then my measure cost. Great. So now I have a HVAC incentive as well that's populated. So my grand total estimated incentive has updated here, but I can see summaries both in the lighting and the HVAC section here. So if I'm satisfied with these measures that I've input, I'm going to move on to my project review section. So this will tell me all of the information that I input in the project information sections, as well as my prescriptive items here. So I'm showing my 2 line items for lighting and HVAC, and then my total estimated incentive. I can review an incentive report here that will show me what my total savings are expected, as well as the incentives impact on the project cost, and some nice metrics about how much energy this is going to be saving. This is available for export. If you go to File Print, you can remove this page and use it for any project information. Now I'm ready to go to my project submission. My application is at 100% here. I'm satisfied with all of my inputs, and I'm going to submit this in the online portal. So step 1 is going to be to save this application with a unique file name. Step 2 is going to be to gather all documents that are needed to submit. And so see below here. So all projects applications are laid out here. The required documents for all projects are listed. So your application via the online portal, all of your relevant tabs within this workbook. Projects will be subject to random pre-inspection. We require the application workbook here to be submitted, any specification sheets, signed terms and conditions on the portal, and then optional existing equipment if available. And then for fast track installed projects, we'll have a certificate of completion, an invoice, and any updates required, and then random post inspections. For other specific project types, we might have additional documents that are required. So for lighting projects, we'll need DLC or Energy Star certificates, AHRI certificates for HVAC measures, and a required pre-inspection for decarbonization measures. For custom measures, we'll also require a scope of work and savings calculations provided to support the workbook. So once I've gathered all of my required documents, we have links here to the application portal to submit all of your documentation. This concludes our initial workbook training. Please use the Contact Us button at the top of the workbook here to direct any